Welcome to the Sonic Truth Overtime. Oh, what a show, guys. What a show. Ending on a fart sounder. Oh, Alan, can you please defend this take? Jahan Dotson over Terry McLaurin. Ooh, wow. Ooh, that's really bold. This is a dynasty. A lot of people have him ahead of McLaurin in Dynasty to start, and it's not outlandish at all to think that he would outscore McLaurin. I don't think he will. I think McLaurin is underrated, actually, at this point in his career. But how, after all of the the rubrics that you laid out for what's bold, to end the show with Dotson outscores McLaurin. How?
It's the opposite of bold, Alan.
What are you doing, dude? Are you? I think if it was levels of trolling, and he was actually trolling us based on how we were criticizing him and how he was criticizing us, and then for him to end on that's 3D chess level trolling. If that was his intention, or was that your bold prediction all along?
Yeah, no, that was I was trolling you guys a little bit, but I really think, in all seriousness, right now, Jahan Dotson routinely gets drafted rounds after Terry McLaurin in Dynasty startup drafts. And it's also has a lot to do with the default ADP in a lot of drafters, whether you're drafting on MFL, on FFPC Dynasty, if you're drafting on Sleeper, the default rankings that you see there influence how people draft. And I think, like I said in the beginning of the take, it's so obvious given the age. Terry McLaurin will have that number 28 in his player card next year. Jahan Dotson, I mean, he was like a supercharged Tyler Lockett, a Steve Smith, to bring up a sore point for you, a poor man Steve Smith.
Steve Smith?
poor man
oh
Steve Smith.
God.
But a supercharged Tyler Lockett, even though he's not the typical touchdown scorer, he scored a lot of touchdowns because he pushes people out of the way, and you don't have to take him there. But right now, if you went to someone in your Dynasty league and offered them Terry McLaurin for Jahan Dotson, it's an interesting question, right? Because one guy goes ahead of the other, but it's so obvious to the Sonic Truth and Player Profiler that those ADPs are going to be flipped in 2024.
His formation-adjusted yards per route run, which looks at the formation with 3 receivers, 4 receivers, 2 receivers on the field, because that could influence yards per route run. He was number 58, right? He's number 50 in yards per team pass attempt. He was outside the top 100 receivers in yards after the catch. So, okay, fine. He's not particularly efficient on a per target basis, but maybe he was getting targeted at a high rate because the team trusts him and features him. No, his target rate was 17.5%. His season was predicated 100% on touchdown scoring. That was, 19% touchdown rate. As a rule, if you fade the guy that had a 19% touchdown rate the previous season, you're going to be well ahead in fantasy football.
Yeah, but he was a touchdown scorer as well in college. This is not.
Stop it, Alan. He's 5'10". He's not a touchdown scorer.
He has it in his profile.
What I would have respected you more if you said that Curtis Samuel would outscore Jahan Dotson.
20 touchdowns his last 2 years in college at 5'9". We saw it on tape in the NFL, and I guess that's where
What do you mean you saw it on tape? You're one of these people that saw a route that was on Twitter that he ran, one snap, one route, one catch, and he flashed explosiveness and he flashed agility, and that's how you're judging him instead of zooming out and seeing the full picture of all of his snaps and all of his routes from last year, and none of it was impressive.
So then it is a bold take.
So I will go on the pro Jahan Dotson side, and also it's a little bit of anti Terry McLaurin side. McLaurin, Matt, we've never seen McLaurin crack 15 points per game in any season of his career.
This is Washington.
Yeah, that's fine. But Jahan Dotson last year gave you 6 top 25 wide receiver scoring weeks in 12 games. And Matt, he was able to come back from injury and play well towards the end of the season. So I'll say this, Jahan Dotson, I agree with you, Alan. I think that he's a better route runner than people think. And Matt, the touchdowns scored were only in 12 games. So I agree with you. That's an unsustainable. It's an unsustainable. It's an unsustainable touchdown rate. But the targets are going to go way up, and also you have the fact that he's 23 versus McLaurin's going to be 29 this season.
Terry McLaurin was number 7 in the NFL in yards per target. He was the polar opposite of Jahan Dotson in that he was hugely efficient. He was hugely efficient in the face of horrendous, horrible, horrific quarterback play. Taylor Heineke, get out of here. He's averaged 1,500 air yards per season the last 3 years.
So Matt Kelly, let's just go back to it, right? I mean, right now in the Dynasty rankings, Terry McLaurin is significantly being drafted ahead of Jahan Dotson. Who do you want on your Dynasty team just in a vacuum?
I want McLaurin, but what I'm telling you is it's not that bold of a position to take that Dotson would outscore McLaurin because they're all suppressed because they have Curtis Samuel in the passing game as well, and this is going to be one of the more anemic offenses in the league. So it's not that crazy for that to happen. It's just okay.
Mine wasn't that they were going to outscore, by the way.
It wasn't. Okay, so I have to say this. It is crazy to me. Okay, that's partly why I reacted like I did in that it's like, okay, this actually can't happen. Based on the efficiency metrics, it actually can't happen. And what's so bad about the take is that A, it can't happen based on the efficiency metrics, and B, no one thinks it's bold because the average, especially the average Dynasty listener that tunes into the Sonic Truth podcast is going to be much more bullish on Dotson than they are McLaurin. So you're feeding into what's already a misperception of these two players. That's what I found most offensive.
Yeah, I mean, the bold take was that the ADPs will basically be flipped. I mean, that is, and I don't think that's the consensus view at this point. So
I think it is the consensus view. So we disagree everywhere. We have never disagreed more. Every assumption you're making here, we disagree. And in your conclusion, we disagree.
It's a fundamental disagreement, guys.
It's fundamental.
Yeah.
And of all these receivers, you know the receiver I have by far and away the most of in all formats? Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel actually has a top 20 season on his resume. Curtis Samuel is the most versatile of all these guys. Curtis Samuel has the athleticism. Curtis Samuel is the forgotten receiver. If you wanted to go bold to say Samuel outscores Dotson, that's where I would have gone because it is actually counterintuitive and it is actually helpful to fantasy gamers to avoid Dotson at his ADP and draft all the Samuel at his ADP. See, I'm being helpful there.
I'll say that the Samuel
because
one is
again,
interesting, Matt.
My nephew is listening, and I want him to have the best possible fantasy team that he can.
Your nephew's going to have a lot of Curtis Samuel on his best ball teams. He's mass entering underdog tournaments probably. But I'll say that the Samuel argument is interesting because at the beginning of last season with Turner as the offensive coordinator, they were force-feeding Samuel touches. I don't know if that'll be the case this year with Bieniemy. I don't know. So it's an interesting argument to see where it's going to go in terms of the pecking order. I think what's clear to me is I think for 2023, McLaurin and Dotson are both in a pretty good spot, and potentially Samuel. We have the tight end position there's not going to be a tremendous target earner, and the running back position we have some question marks as to how much they will use Gibson. I think they should use Gibson a lot, but we don't know if it's going to be the case. Apparently, there's still the Ron Rivera still loves Brian Robinson, and apparently there's a little bit of Chris Rodriguez love from Bieniemy. So
okay,
I think
can we stop with the Bieniemy and as soon as you said Bieniemy and Chris Rodriguez in the same? Can we just end the this is I think overtime is over. Is it tick tick tick? Can we just end the show now?
We're close to a full overtime. You can end it, Matt.
I think we can end it. I mean, Bieniemy and Rodriguez. Do you have anything, any closing remarks, Alan, to defend this horrible take that you put out there into the world? Unfortunately,
I've said it all. You got, by the way, in the player profiler rankings, you guys have them back to back. So if you want to see, if you guys want to see those dynasty rankings, it's a great time to sign up for the all-in package and check out that and all of the other bold takes and where we have them ranked right now on the player profiler dynasty draft kit.
Theo, don't you have a promo code?
You can use the code Theo and get $10 off the all-in package.
Go do it.